Jordan and Gretzky, Serena and Ruth. Remembering great ones is easy to do. But what about the no-names who spent their whole lives long snapping footballs and catching sack flies? They're guys, remember that guy. Remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy. They're just gonna remember some guys now.
Apparently something's going on here. Ellie's doubled over. He just threw up. Athletic trainer Sean McQueen, he jogs out. He's just vomiting into the grass. And remember that guy, the show we mine our memories for nuggets of nostalgia about peripheral players, past and present. Hey there, folks. It is me, one of your hosts, James. And I'm here with another victim of our current heat wave who knows a thing or two about booting and rallying.
Dude, I'm not a fan of getting up at 4 a.m. to run. I am a fan of the good old boot and rally. And we have a very special guest. He might have thrown up water one time, but you know what? That's okay. We love him anyway. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, you know what? Being able to throw up on command was a skill that served me well for the 4 years of college plus a couple years after that.
It was really nice to be like, oh, that was one too many. Let's fix it, and let's come back and have a good rest of our night.
Yeah. Speaking of how we're going to have a good rest of our episode, Diaz, I think it's got to start with whatever it is that's making memories for you right now.
It is, and what's making memories for me is a team that I didn't even know existed this time a week ago. But now I do have a favorite Tunisian soccer team. It is ES Tunis. The Club World Cup, it's going on in the United States of America right now. Many say that it is simply just a cash grab, and many are correct. But here's the thing, folks. Cash grabs can still be very fun. And on Tuesday night, one of those cash grabs took place at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. It was Chelsea, famously of the Premier League, famously, one of the top clubs in the entire world, against ES Tunis, also known as Esportive de Tunisie, the top team in all of Tunisia. And as the one time in the past 4 years champions of the African Champions League, they get to play in the Club World Cup. And this was a game that could have had very low stakes, but ended up being like almost a perfect scenario you could want. It's the last day of the group. It's Tunis and Chelsea level on 3 points. Chelsea with the 1-goal advantage in GD. So if Tunisia could pull off the upset, they would go through. Chelsea needed only a draw. And for the first half of soccer, it was one of the most incredible atmospheres I've ever been a part of. Obviously, Chelsea has a much larger presence, much more well-known in the U.S., and in the non-official fan section just was reflected. If you were buying a GA ticket, you were most likely a Chelsea fan or a general soccer fan. But just as it is in, Premier League games, any soccer game, there's the supporter ends are behind each goal. And the supporting end behind Tunisia's side was packed, jumping, singing the team songs the whole game. It was such a noted difference because while I don't speak any Arabic, I believe is the official language of Tunisia.
It is.
So I had no idea what was being said, but I was absolutely enamored and enthralled by their passion, singing, dancing the whole game, versus there was a "Let's Go Chelsea" chant at one point, which Chelsea does not do in London. Like the proper home base, that is not a chant that exists in England. Negative aura is, I think, the word that I used in our soccer chat.
So correct me if I'm wrong. That's just very clearly indicative. Legitimate Chelsea fans, all from the United States.
Exactly. No, that's the exact correct read to make. And I mean, just absolute passion the whole game. For the first 40 minutes, there were 2 or 3 times that Tunis got a 2-on-1, 3-on-2 break and was like, oh shit, they might score. They might actually do it. Chelsea scored 2 goals right at the end of the first half. It very quickly went from, hey, if they can just get the half 0-0, adjust, find your tactical adjustments to be able to break through, get a goal. And it very quickly became, okay, well, there's no way Tunisia's going to score 3 goals in the second half. This kind of sucks now. dampened my spirits. Did not dampen the spirits of the ES Toonies fans at all. They continued singing, jumping, dancing the whole time. And when we were leaving, the game ended at like roughly 11, and we had to go opposite caddy corner to get to where the Uber pickup was. So it took us about 15, 20 minutes to get over there after the game ended. At 11:20, the ES Toonies fans were still absolutely, like, not a single one had left Lincoln Financial Field because you could still hear them chanting as we were making our way through the parking lots. The American sports mind simply cannot comprehend. And look, will I ever see another ES Toonies game again in my life? Probably not. But if I do see that they're playing, I'll throw it on. I'll certainly be checking results. I am now a very, very casual, very removed, but an ES Toonies fan nonetheless. And dude, this Club World Cup, like, as much of a cash grab as it's been, at the end of the day, it is still soccer, and it is still very meaningful games. Maybe not to the European teams, but for these South American teams and these teams from Africa and Asia, like, it is a chance to play on a massive stage and show that you belong and that you can play. And there's certainly going to be some players from these leagues that are going to end up, making themselves millions and millions of dollars, euros, pounds, rubles, whatever currency you want to say. They're going to make a lot of money by their performances this week and in this tournament. So it's a blast. I love sports, even if they're cash grabs, because they kind of all are now, for the most part. But that doesn't mean that they aren't still good. They are still very good.
Money is an inexorable part of sports, and that bleeds perfectly into two of the things that I want to talk about. Thank you so much, Diaz, for teeing that up. What excellent caddy work. Two things, one that's a little quicker and one's a little longer. X, feel free to take the lead on this first one. You are, after all, our legal team here at RTG, and I am someone interested in the immediate after effects of the House versus NCAA settlement that has now come down, which means that for the first time, colleges can now pay colleges can share revenue with athletes, my apologies, as they see fit to disperse. For the 2025-2026 season, D1 schools can they can share up to $20.5 million. And the way that they got to that figure, do you guys know? Are you aware of this? I got this from Matt Brown, who has an excellent newsletter, Extra Points, broke down.
Love Matt Brown. I do not know where this came from. I've tried to stay up to date on the House settlement. It's way too complex for me. Even for my lawyer brain, I don't understand it. So please, James, enlighten me.
I think the way they got to the number is pretty easy for you guys to grasp once I give you a quick explanation. They basically took all of the schools in the Power 5 conferences and Notre Dame. That is, can they even say Power 5 still at this point? It says Power 5.
They call it Power 4 at this point.
Matt Brown did use Power 5 in his write-up of it, so that's why I'm going, just to make sure that I'm not messing up what schools were involved in this pool. Anyway, they take all those schools and unaffiliated Notre Dame. They add together all of their revenue. They divide that by the total number of schools to get the average per school, and then they multiply that by 22%. 22% of the total revenue on average for those schools. That is the salary cap. Sorry. That's the revenue sharing cap. My apologies. And already, with this formula, I'm very much interested to see the fact that they have already created a formula where it is going to grow as time goes on, much like similar caps in other professional sports leagues also grow as things go on. And this becomes, just like we were saying, an inexorable part of sports in which not just the money, but just the amount of money that you can pay because of the predetermined guidelines you've already given yourselves will hamstring roster construction in the future. There's a lot of time to see how this plays out. Interested to see how they continue to avoid saying whether or not they are paying athletes. The other thing I want to talk about is definitely paying athletes, 100%. And that is Big League Advance. Have you all followed any of this recently developing stories or any of the stories in the past about Big League Advance?
This I do know of.
So, in 2008, Diaz, you might be aware of this, the Phillies won the World Series. Congratulations.
It was great.
I remember it being pretty solid. 4 months earlier, though, in the draft, they spent a 14th round pick on a guy named Michael Schwimmer, who was a pitcher from UVA, and he would appear in 47 games in the majors with the Phillies in 2011, 2012. He would more importantly spend 191 games in the minors between the Philadelphia and eventually the Toronto organization, ending up there in 2013. And so pre-arb during that period, you were probably getting about $3,000 per game check. So he made some money in the major leagues, but mostly he was in the minor leagues. And I have certainly become more aware in recent years, even if I had some slight idea of this. And I think the world at large has become more aware of how generally awful the working conditions for minor leaguers are recently. They don't really make a living wage. They get about $1,000 a month now, even after improvements, once taxes and stuff. They take home $1,000 a month roughly. So Michael Schwimmer has dealt with this system now. He's been a part of it, and he decided that he wanted to do something to change that in his post-playing career. And so he wanted to offer some kind of relief and started a company called Big League Advantage. This is a company that does a lot of things. Notably, they first used these proprietary data models for pitching, where they would basically go cold call teams saying, hey, we'll do a survey of all of these pitchers, whatever 50 minor leaguers and 25 major leaguers you want to know. We'll give you that survey and you can have access to the data. First taste is free. You pay us later. And they were very good models. He was very good while he was recovering from surgery and couldn't do much more rehab than 2 hours a day at just developing this and understanding pitching data. But what they really got good at was projecting, based on those performances, what a player was likely to earn over their career. This ended up being the data they had most reliably able to churn out for franchises. And what that means is all of a sudden they realize, wait, this is the thing that we can make money off of. So now they have started this thing within Big League Advantage called Big League Advance. They go to minor leaguers, mostly not making any money whatsoever other than whatever signing bonus they had. And they said, hey, we will give you right now a certain lump sum of money, a couple $100,000, a couple million for some people, some life-changing money for you, a minor league player. A minor league player who has a 90% chance of never reaching the major leagues at any point in your career. We're going to give you this, but here's the catch. Any major league earnings you make, we get 10% of forever, in perpetuity. And for scores of minor leaguers, this is incredible. But for the few of them that do reach arbitration, and eventually, if they're lucky, free agency, and really rack up money, they're going to be a massive payout. So this is a giant gamble, quote, investment from Big League Advance, but they are betting that they'll get a couple guys who, I don't know, sign a 14-year, $340 million extension and pay him $34 million for that extension. And that is what has happened with the San Diego Padres outfielder Fernando Tatis Jr. He signed with BLA as a 17-year-old while he was in the Dominican Republic, for what it's worth, which is notable. And now almost a decade later, he's already at this point, for the $2 million that he initially got, he was paid pretty handsomely for this, giving them $4.8 million, which is 10% of his $48 million career earnings to this point, and he's got about 292 to go. And so he is now suing them, claiming that this was an illegal loan signed under duress due to predatory tactics. And despite this having been done in the DR, he is now, according to his lawyer, this is what they're claiming, covered by California consumer protection laws. And so they can try and fight this and try and fight BLA in general. And BLA declined to comment to ESPN, which is in contrast to how they've acted in the past, because this is not the first time that this has come up, nor is it the first time that it has come up with the San Diego Padres. So there are two other instances with BLA that are worth kind of knowing for the background information here. First off, Francisco Mejia was a member of the Cleveland Guardians. He was a catcher who had a little bit of a cup of coffee when this initially occurred, but was then traded to the Padres. February before he's traded, back in 2018, he also sues BLA, saying, hey, I was not making this in the right state of mind. I should not be held to this that I made as a teenager. And 6 months later, this comes to a settlement. I do just want to read some of his official statement there. Today, I dropped my lawsuit against Big League Advance. I am happy with my agreement with Big League Advance and appreciative of the information and support they provided me. To be clear, I do not believe Big League Advance has ever deceived me. All of my interactions with Big League Advance, and specifically Michael Schwimmer, have been very professional and respectful. I believe that Big League Advance offers a great option for all minor league players. I want to make clear that I fully intend to honor my original agreement with Big League Advance. I don't think Michael Schwimmer is part of the mafia or anything, but this is the kind of thing where I assume someone is holding a gun out of frame while you are reading off this statement. There is also the case of Franmil Reyes, who a couple years later got sued himself by BLA after having played with the Padres for breach of contract 8 days before Tatis. They are not only pursuing fees that were left over from his major league career, they're also going after Franmil Reyes for the money he's made the last 2 years in the Nippon professional leagues over in Japan. I think there are shades of gray to Michael Schwimmer. I'm curious what you all think with this quick download, but my takeaway from just learning more about big league advance is it feels kind of like, hey, yes, the minor league system is indeed a genuine problem, but trying to solve it in this manner feels a lot like when there's a societal ill and we're like, oh, well, a billionaire will just donate enough money to deal with that. We certainly don't want to just set up a protective social safety net that doesn't require that billionaire's whims to not change at any given time. That's big league advance. I'm curious where you two stand on this matter.
So this is interesting because I was just watching something with Caitlin yesterday that's not dissimilar to this. It's not sporting related, but it was about a K-pop lawsuit where there was a K-pop group that was created and they added a minor from America, a teenage girl, and she eventually sued them for violations of California's child labor laws because even though it was a Korean group, she was in California. And part of that was going through the whole lawsuit and everything that's happened around it. And it's really scummy. And there's a real good chance that they did really badly take advantage of this girl. And they had all these punitive clauses where if she broke her contract, she would owe all of the money they invested in her, including dance lessons, singing lessons, lodging, and then also a future penalty clause for lost income that they would have expected from her being a success. And then they also had, you can't sue us over this. It can only go to arbitration, where arbitration is much more likely to side with a big corporation than a possible jury trial. Unfortunately, all of that is legal. You can do that as a company. There's even allegations that the contract they gave her was only in Korean, a language that she doesn't read. But the argument that most courts will say is, why didn't you hire someone to read the contract before you signed it? And that's the shitty thing is they very much exploit children and teenagers. And this is a very common thing in many entertainment and sports industries. But it's also very much legal in most places. They have the lawyers to understand what they can do that is legal or not. So, I just saw earlier that Tatis's lawsuit might not be able to go ahead because it's going to have to go to arbitration because he signed a contract binding him to only resolve it in private arbitration. So that's probably what will happen with that. We'll never actually see a resolution to it. It's scummy, but it's unfortunately very common.
Well, honestly, this was my first takeaway. Regardless of the ethics of it or, all of that, Fernando Tatis Jr. had no reason to have to sign one of these agreements. I would have to assume. I would assume Fernando Tatis Sr. wasn't terrible with money.
It is interesting that it is Francisco Mejia, Franmil Reyes, not necessarily coming from money in the same capacity. Maybe it's just hey, you've put in a lot of money. Is this $2 million almost an insurance policy or something like that in their mind? But no,
insurance policy at that point. You can do that. You can insure your body if you're an athlete.
You don't even have to be an athlete. You could be like J-Lo and just insure your butt.
Reasonably so. Anyway, that's a little bit of a bummer, but it is a developing story. It is one that I find very interesting because money does unfortunately make the world go round. However, I hear Xavier might have something that lifts our spirits here, making memories.
Yeah, it's time for America's favorite game show, Knueppel or Knueppel. I'm going to read out names, and you're going to tell me if they are part of Knueppel's family or if I have made them up.
It's fucking great. Great name. Just want to make sure that you
tried really hard to come up with one there.
No,
so,
I do know for a fact that all of his family's names do begin with K, so it's bullshit if it's not that.
Everything on this list is a K.
Okay.
So, we already have Knueppel, who is technically Knueppel II, and his father, Knueppel I. What about Kevin Knueppel?
If you're going for K... You gotta have Kevin. If you're going for K names, that's like one of two layups I can think of.
So that's a yes from James Diaz.
I think it's a no.
There is no Kevin Knueppel.
Okay.
What about Clint Knueppel? Clint with a K.
That's weird. That's some white people shit. Says
So,
the white
like,
person.
I will say, like, I saw the graphic last night of all the names. I don't remember the graphic. I'm like trying. There's one that I do remember, and you're gonna say it, and I'm gonna know it. Clint, I don't remember seeing. I think it's a no.
Clint is his uncle. Clint
Okay.
Knueppel is his uncle. Caleb Knueppel.
I think my rule going forward is if that name should be spelled with a K, it will not be. And if it shouldn't be spelled with a K, it's probably in the family. So I'm going to say yes for Caleb as well.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
There is no Caleb. I made
Are
that
you
one up as
fucking
well.
kidding me?
Knox Knueppel.
Knox.
That one definitely is, yes.
So there's no Kevin, but there is a Knox. Yeah, probably. Remember when Megan the Stallion had a Kevin
I
Knox?
tell you guys again. I took
Kevin
Kevin
Knox.
and Knox from Kevin Knox.
Yeah, because you're as big of a fan of him as Megan the Stallion is.
All right. Cole Knueppel. Again, Cole with a K, of course.
Of course. I mean, if we go by the rule that I made that was immediately disproven, this is real.
I think yes.
I
This
think
is
so.
real. This is
Yeah,
real.
you have-
Cole is real. So that we have the Knueppel original brothers, the Flying Knueppel brothers, which were Khan the First, and also Cole and Clint, and their other brother Clay. They were the Flying Knueppel brothers. That is the uncle part. Now the next one on my list, Kager Knueppel. Kager.
I think yes. I don't think you could make that
Yeah,
up.
that's what I'm going to say. Xavier, all the love in the world. I don't think you can make up Kager.
Appreciate that. I did not make this up. This is
Yeah.
Khan Knueppel II's, one of his brothers, Kager Knueppel. What about Caden Knueppel?
Important question. Is there a Y?
There is a Y. Kayden.
I'm feeling pretty good about it with a Y.
Well, especially with the explicit specification, yes.
Got you guys again. This is what I made.
You're great. You're great, man.
All right. We're coming to the home stretch. Cash Knueppel. Kash.
Has to be.
I
James?
think so. I don't think so. I'm gonna zag on one answer, and this is the one I'm zagging on.
Diaz, you are correct. Cash
Son of
is
a bitch.
also one of Khan's brothers. 3 left. Carter Knueppel. Karter.
I'm going to say yes, Carter. It's a last name. It should have a C. It's got to be in this family.
Diaz?
I'm in. Yes.
Nope, that's one I made up. Down to the last 2. I have not been keeping score, but this has been very fun. Kinston Knueppel. Kinston.
No.
It's strange that you would theoretically end on 3 correct at the end. But I want Kinston to be right, and I want to believe that Diaz and I are vaguely tied right now, and so this is for the win. So I'm going to say yes to Kinston.
Kinston is one of Khan's brothers. And now we are on the last Knueppel that I have for you. Kid Knueppel. Is Kid Knueppel real, or did I make that one up?
KYD, KIDD,
KID.
and we're saying name, not a nickname.
It is a shortened version of Kidman. Kidman, but only called Kid. Kid Knueppel.
Do I think Xavier is clever enough to take Nicole Kidman's last name and make up a fake backstory for why that person would be
I do
called
love
Kid?
Nicole Kidman. My favorite thing of going
I know
to any
you
movie
do.
theater is the fucking Nicole Kidman intro.
Yeah. Give me Kid Knueppel.
Kidman Knueppel is the youngest Knueppel brother.
Kidman Knueppel is the youngest Knueppel brother. So congratulations for playing Knueppel or Knueppel. We will look back at the scoring later to see who won, and James can ding whoever the winner is in the edit.
Hey there, folks. It's me, Editor James. Let's go ahead and check in on those scores from Knueppel or Knueppel. Diaz did pretty well. Got 5 answers correct. That is just over half for a final score of 5 out of 9. And that is the highest score that anyone managed in Knueppel or Knueppel. But someone better call up Donovan McNabb and let him know that you can also have ties in Knueppel or Knueppel. 5 is the highest score since it's the only score that anyone got in this. James matched that, meaning that we have a 5-5 draw. And that concludes this exciting edition of Knueppel or Knueppel. I guess if Colin goes ahead and starts having himself a family, we'll be able to revisit this in the future. But until then, back to you, Xavier.
That was very fun. I love when people do stupid shit like that. Like, everybody's going to be named K. Just like...
And not take Kevin. I'm sorry. Choosing to do that and leaving Kevin on the table. Criminal.
It's the white person version of Rugnet Odor, Rugnet Odor, Rugnet Odor, Rugless Odor, and Rugless Odor.
Well, think of it this way. If all of your brothers had these cool-ass names and you were just fucking Kevin, that kind of sucks, doesn't it?
I think I'd stick with it. I still think it's criminal, and to be clear, I'm spelling criminal with a K. Anywho, that was fun. I enjoyed that game very much. I'm excited to enjoy what's about to come up. Folks, just as a reminder, if you've just joined us now for this season, Season 13, you only get one guy per week. And over the course of 9 weeks, we will deliver 9 guys, 3 from each of us, which means as we come to this turn of the rotation, Xavier, this is your final guy for Season 13, Game-Breaking Guys. And I'm excited to hear who we've got.
Guess what? Their name starts with a K.
Oh, God.
Today, I want to talk about Kathrine Switzer. And it's Kathrine, Kathrine, because it was spelled wrong on her birth certificate.
Spelled wrong as in they forgot the E between H.
E.
Okay, it wasn't like they were supposed to do a Y and double N's. A name that could be spelled in many ways.
Yes, this time they forgot the E. So it is Kathrine, just going straight from the H to the R. Kathrine Switzer was born January 5th, 1947 in Amberg, in what was then the American-occupied zone of Germany, which was that period between 1945 and 1949, prior to the establishment of West Germany. At this point, her father was a major in the army, and she was born out in Germany while he was stationed there. After West Germany gets established, her family moves back to the States, and she grows up in Virginia. She is an athlete. She plays field hockey in high school, and her father recommended that to improve her conditioning, she runs a mile each day. So she starts doing that. After high school, she attends Lynchburg College, where she is a 3-sport athlete, playing field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse, while also upping her running to 3 miles each day in order to, keep her conditioning up for all of these sports. After 2 years, she decides to transfer from Lynchburg to Syracuse because she wants to go to journalism school, and Syracuse has one of the best journalism schools in the country. At this point, she's also enjoying running even more, so she requests permission to train with the Syracuse men's cross-country program. And she was doing this for a very specific reason. Kathrine Switzer wanted to participate in the upcoming Boston Marathon.
I've just had a dawning recognition, right, that is why I know this name. This is who we're talking about. I'm excited. Is it bad that she's probably the second most famous woman to run in the Boston Marathon after the one that didn't run the Boston Marathon?
I mean, I think that's probably a fair assessment, but
I think
everyone likes the fake stuff more, so of course that's a better story. But I think this is a good story too. So
I'm a big aspartame guy. I get it.
So Kathrine Switzer wants to run the Boston Marathon, and her assistant coach at Syracuse, Arnie Briggs, ex-military man himself, paratrooper, told her that women were too fragile to run a marathon, but that he liked her, and he said, if any woman could do it, you could, but that you have to prove it to me first. If you can run this distance in practice, I'll be the first to take you to Boston. So there's a great excerpt from a ESPN piece on Kathrine Switzer. So I'm just going to read this little excerpt real quick. After training hard for 2.5 months through Syracuse's brutal winter, the pair ran 26 miles during one session. Switzer, coming down the home stretch, couldn't believe how good she felt and suggested that they run 5 more miles in case they mismeasured the course. Briggs, a U.S. Army paratrooper in World War II who broke his back in a jump over Germany, was weaving at the end. But when they crossed the imaginary 31-mile finish line, Switzer threw her arms around him. "We did it," Switzer said. "We're going to Boston." And then Briggs passed out.
Passed out and remained alive, right?
Yes, he remained alive.
Okay, because that's when you took. There was it was only a millisecond of pause, but it was enough for me to assume the worst.
He did survive that and was alive. I do not know if he's alive at this point. I doubt he is, just based off of age. But at this point, he is alive. So at this time, the Amateur Athletics Union (AAU) banned women from competing in any AAU sanctioned race that was over 1.5 miles. However, the Boston Marathon had its own rulebook that Switzer and Briggs had pored over extensively, and it does not ban women. They do not mention it at all. The prior year, in 1966, Bobby Gibb had tried to enter the Boston Marathon, but was rejected by Boston Athletic Association Director Will Clowney, who said that women were physiologically incapable of running 26 miles. Gibb still snuck into the race. For those who don't know, the Boston Marathon has a long history of bandits, aka those who are not officially registered racers, but who run the race anyway. They have cracked down on that in recent years, unfortunately, due to the bad things that have happened at the Boston Marathon. But at this point, this was fairly common. So Gibbs sneaks into the race, runs it in 3 hours, 21 minutes, and 40 seconds, which is ahead of 2/3 of the runners, but it's not counted as an official entry.
And I just want to say 2 things about women in long distance running while we're here. A 3:21 is easily a qualifying time for women, by current Boston qualifying standards. And the Boston Marathon is a harder marathon. So most people who run a Boston qualifying time do so on an easier course than Boston. So running a 3:21, obviously right then and there, the thesis that women are physiologically it's impossible for them to do it is already disproven. Also, it is literally scientifically proven that specifically at ultra distances, women are more built to be able to do that. There is a certain distance that you hit where women will run it faster than men if both are trained equally. So I just wanted to chime in with my absolutely barely above amateur knowledge of distance running. And
yes, you're the only person on this call that's run a marathon.
I was going to say it.
You're very much qualified to talk about this.
I can't think of anything more qualifying than doing the thing.
It's like the owl meme. First you just got to run a little bit, then you just got to run the rest of the fucking marathon.
So Kathrine wanted to run as an official competitor, not a bandit, not seeking in. She registers using her assigned AAU number, pays the full race fee. This is from her memoir. Quote, "We checked the rulebook and entry form. There was nothing about gender in the marathon. I filled in my AAU number, plunked down $3 cash as entry fee, signed, as I always sign my name, which is K.V.Switzer, and went to the University Infirmary to get a fitness certificate." And she signs her name KV because everyone got her name wrong because of the misspell on her birth certificate. And rather than correct people all the time, she just went by her initials. She had to have someone pick up her bib in Boston, so a male runner who's part of her racing club picked it up for her. On race day, it's snowing and sleeting, so Switzer shows up. She's got sweatpants on, a hoodie, some black plastic garbage bags to stay warm. She's got her bib. And now I have to introduce a separate character to this story. This is a man named Jock Semple, who was the marathon co-race director. And Jock was a very serious man who had a extensive history of both verbally and physically attacking college students and other competitors who showed up wearing costumes or otherwise did things that in his mind disrespected the race. 10 years earlier, he was nearly arrested for assault when he had tackled a runner who was wearing snorkeler shoes, who had been running so well, he was near the front of the pack that Jock thought it was making a mockery of the event. Back to the race. After a couple of miles, Switzer warms up. the weather clears up a bit, so she takes off the garbage bags, lowers her hood, and people discover that there's a woman running the race. According to another student runner, John Leonard, the runners and the fans were pretty excited that, hey, a woman's running the marathon. Quote, people were really happy to see a woman out there on the course. A couple people were yelling, hey, it's a broad, or something along those lines. There's cameras snapping pictures continuously for about 30 seconds or so, and then they move on. Then slightly behind that, suddenly there was an uproar. And this uproar was Jock. Jock saw that there was a woman in his race, and he did not like that very much. He did not like that so much that he runs onto the course to try to attack Switzer to remove her bib. And I am going to send you guys photos of this because this was documented by a photographer who was watching the race.
I'll repost the Guy of the Day post. At some point when we were doing that regularly, Kathrine Switzer was one, which is why I have some familiarity with the story. The images are wild. He is like a rabid old man. He looks like very obviously old. It feels like one of those images that's too fucking on the nose. The same way his name being Jock Semple is just too fucking on the nose. Like, all of this is just obnoxiously allegorical, and yet.
So in Switzer's memoir, she wrote, instinctively, I jerked my head around quickly and looked square into the most vicious face I'd ever seen. A big man, a huge man with bared teeth, was set to pounce. And before I could react, he grabbed my shoulder and flung me back, screaming, quote, get the hell out of my race and give me those numbers, referring to the bib. Coach Briggs attempted to protect Switzer, and Semple knocks him to the ground. This 50-year-old Army veteran knocks him to the ground. However, Switzer's boyfriend, Tom Miller, was running with her as well, and he shoulder checks Semple, knocks him to the ground. Semple would later lament being stopped, saying about Miller, quote, that guy's a hammer thrower, for cripe's sake. Miller was...
I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Is he upset that someone is picking on someone not their own size?
Yeah, so this was a good thing that Miller did, but I do have to then milkshake Duck Miller here, because due to being a hammer thrower, Tom Miller actually quits the race a few miles later after believing that this would impact his ability to make the Olympics, and blaming Kathrine for it. From the memoir, Tom ripped the numbers off the front and back of his sweatshirt, tore them up, and threw them to the pavement and shouted, quote, I am never going to make the Olympic team, and it's all your fault. Then he lowered his voice and hissed, besides that, you run too slow anyway. And with that, he took off and disappeared among the runners in front. I couldn't help it. I felt so ashamed. I was crying. Again, Tom had convinced me I was just a girl, a jogger, and a no-talent like me had now bumbled the Olympic dream out of his life. I thought I was a serious girlfriend to him, and so I guess that was over too. It was a hell of a race so far, that's for sure. And we still had over 20 miles to run. So this is a pretty insane first 6 miles of a marathon for someone. But even with all this drama, Kathrine locks in, and she finishes the marathon. Can either of you guess her final time?
3:33.
I'm gonna say 3:27.
Guess funnier.
4:20.
4 hours, 20 minutes.
It was 4 hours, 20 minutes.
The one time, Diaz, the one time we don't do it.
Our brains were too pure.
Thanks in part to the photos of the attack. Obviously, this makes huge news. Quote, they always say a photograph tells 1,000 words. This photo of me running and being attacked by a race official and him getting bounced by my boyfriend flashed around the world. I think it was a big turning point in women's sports. Clowney, the head of the BAA, was asked about Switzer's participation, given his previous statements that women couldn't do this because they physically couldn't run that much. And his response this time was, quote, women can't run in the marathon because the rules forbid it. Unless we have rules, society will be in chaos. I don't make the rules, but I try to carry them out. We have no space in the marathon for any unauthorized person, even a man. If that girl were my daughter, I would spank her.
I don't know why people can't just be normal and always have to, like, also kind of weirdly sexualize all the people that they're angry about. Also, can't he actually... Isn't he the one making the rules? I know he's saying he's enforcing them, but, like, he's the one that makes the rules.
So, after this, the AAU changes its rules nearly immediately. But not in a good way. Their change was to expressly ban women from competing in any race against men under penalty of losing eligibility to compete in any women's AAU-sanctioned events. So, they're not the, if you can't beat them, let them in the club. They're, if you can't beat them, ban them even further and say we'll ban you even more than that if you don't listen to our first ban.
Double secret ban.
It's so heartwarming, the end of Air Bud, where they're like, but there's no rule against a dog. And they're like, yeah, you're right. We should actually make a rule banning dogs from all sports and end this movie 40 minutes early.
After this, Kathrine and other female athletes decided that they had to fight for their right to race. And although they did not get a mixed race, after multiple years of heavy advocacy, the Boston Marathon eventually relents and establishes a women's marathon in 1972. Kathrine would go on to win the New York Marathon in 1974 with a time of 3 hours, 7 minutes, 29 seconds. And then in the 1975 Boston Marathon, she sets a career best of 2 hours, 51 minutes, and 37 seconds, which was good enough for a second place finish at that time. I mean, that's shaving an hour and a half off of her time at the Boston Marathon, which, I know it was it took a couple years, but that's insanely impressive to me as someone who is impressed by all things running and cannot do it himself.
I'll also put it in context. My PR is 3:59, and I cannot fathom running sub 3. I cannot fathom it.
After this, Kathrine gets named the Female Runner of the Decade by Runner's World magazine. And then in 1978, she thinks there's really still a lot more room to grow for women's long-distance running. So she partners with Avon, the cosmetics company, to create the Avon International Running Circuit. Now, this was created to meet the IOC requirement that a minimum of 25 countries participate in a sport for it to be possibly included at the Olympics. So this event ends up being highly successful, increasing international participation in women's marathon, and eventually expands to a program of 400 women's-only races in 27 different countries. This leads to the implementation of the first women's marathon championships at the 1982 European Championships, then at the 1983 World Championships, and then finally the debut of the women's marathon at the 1984 Olympics, the latter of which Kathrine was the main commentator for American television. This one is for you, Diaz. In 2003, the New York Roadrunners, a very influential running club in America, gave out their annual Abibi Bakila Award to Kathrine Switzer.
Hell yeah.
This award is for the individual who has made a significant contribution to the sport of long-distance running. Getting a women's marathon at the Olympics, I think, is a pretty fair contribution for that. And then, somewhat more recently, at the age of 70, Kathrine ran the 2017 Boston Marathon. This was her 9th time running and the 50th anniversary of her first run. She finishes this in 4 hours, 44 minutes, and 31 seconds. Only 24 minutes slower than the first time she ran it when she was 20, and she's doing this as a 70-year-old. Seems incredible to me. And after the race, the Boston Athletic Association officially retires her bib number of 261. This is only the second time they've ever retired a bib number. The first was the number 61 for a man who ran 61 Boston marathons. So pretty illustrious company for a bib retirement. The last thing I want to note, because it is a nice little capper on the running guys that we have brought to this podcast, is that in a Q&A that she did somewhat recently, she was asked who she would pick if she could run with anyone, living or dead. And her answer was, I'd run with Emil Zatopek. He won 3 gold medals in the 1952 Olympic Games, and he was the first person to train really, really hard. People didn't train like that before him, but he changed the game. He's a big hero of mine because I appreciate him as an athlete and as a person. He didn't have an easy life, but he came out strong, something we can all take to heart.
So she's covered like literally every long distance runner that we've ever done on this show at this point.
You know what? It's a small world, but it still happens that we have her touching all of these. Which
she knows ball, we know ball. Or we what is the track equivalent of knowing ball?
Something about tread, probably. She's well tread instead of well read.
I don't know about calling a woman well tread.
I mean, you're the one who made it about being a woman. I'm just talking about runners.
No, to be fair, actually, this whole thing is about her being a woman. I'm going to push back on that.
Fair.
So it says that she competed in 9 marathons. I know you mentioned that Avon won in 1980. Did she compete in the 1980 Boston Marathon? Were she and Rosie Ruiz running on the same course?
I do not know. So this is the thing I was trying to figure out, because everything I looked up just said she competed in 9 different Boston marathons. I've been trying to find something that says like which ones she actually competed in, and I only found like 5 of them. I have 72, 73, 74, 75, and then 2017. And I know that there are at least 3 more in between then. So there is
not out of the question.
There's a possibility that she did in 80.
God,
I just can't.
So great.
It doesn't. I just can't find it. So
you and I will keep digging for that before we come to our induction discussions later on. And if we can find that, I mean, that's a fucking nail in the coffin for the case. It's done. It's over. She's got in that. My goodness, what a delightful story. It is frustrating that like the response to, hey, you didn't make a rule against this thing that I've proven I can do is, you're right, we didn't. God, we better make a rule against that as quickly as possible.
The one thing from me looking more into Kathrine Switzer that I do want to mention is Jack Semple does have a redemption arc. I don't know if we touched on that.
No, it's true that she has she has said that, you know, he later in life he got more progressive, and after women were legally allowed to race, he was like, you know what, it's by the book now, so it's fine. But you know, I'm not.
Look, I'm a rule Nazi. I'm not an actual Nazi.
She specifically said like they became great friends, and like, you know, looks back on their relationship fondly. She said it took 6 years after for them to become friends, which I think is an appropriate amount of time. You know, I think, you know, by that point.
But credit to her for being the bigger person. I don't know if 6 years is enough, but like, good on her.
He's also 40 years older than her, so like, maybe she's like, he's just like a nice old man now. He's mellowed out. But I'm not going to put words in her mouth on that one.
Well, thank you, Diaz, for the Jock Simple redemption arc. I think that's important context. I think that was good to know and have, as we now have this to mull over with just 2 other guys to be added to these 7 before we start thinking about induction. That's all in the future, and we do hope you join us for that. But, you know, let's take a moment to live here in the present and thank the people that made this present possible. That would include producer Craig, who's behind him, and musical director Don Ham, for whom we have the lovely theme music to thank. Would also just like thank Xavier and Diaz for being here all the time. And I would like to thank you, dear listener, for joining us. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. If you want more fun, you can find everything about our show at bit.ly/rememberthatguy, all one word, all lowercase. That includes the podcast miniseries Elite about Joe Flacco. You should listen to that. It's very good. We got another little bump in downloads this week. I'm always happy to see that. Go stream Elite and tell your friends too. And tell your friends to check this show out too. You should, you know, share it, rate it, review it. We make a great fucking podcast here, people. And like, we don't do it for any reason other than it's fun for the 3 of us to hang out. But it feels nice knowing that other people do listen to it. And it feels okay telling people they should listen to it in a way that it didn't when we started, because this thing's really good now. And we work really hard to make it good for you all. So we are glad that you joined us. Help other people join the RTG crew. That's everything I've got this week. Anything from the 2 of y'all before we make our way out?
Shout out Santi Cazorla and Real Oviedo back in La Liga after 24 years and multiple near collapses. Awesome story.
VJ Edgecombe is the future of the NBA.
Did you mention that name at any point while we were talking about them? I didn't remember hearing it from you. And I knew who the
It's
Spurs
so
were getting,
funny.
so I didn't look into people this time.
It's so funny because he's like maybe the one name in that area that I just didn't give an opinion on at all, which is great because now I'm not on the record of acknowledging any of his flaws, and I can simply say he's great. He's awesome. I love him. But genuinely, like I don't know if you saw any of his interview right after, but they're like, oh, what does it mean? You know, listen, I came from poverty in the Bahamas. I didn't have electricity. We lived off a generator for 7 years. Like,
I saw the generator line, yeah.
and I mean, by all accounts, like the two things that everybody agrees on about him, he's the most explosive athlete in the draft. He's the hardest worker in the draft. I will take those two things as like the top line items on any prospect, especially given, you know, the way certain Ben's and Markel's worked out here.
Valdez Edgecombe, the future of the NBA. As for the present, I've been one of your hosts, James.
Been the very special guest, Xavier.
I'm Diaz, and as Adam Silver once said, with the 55th pick in the 2019 NBA draft, the New York Knicks select Kyle Guy. They're technically calling this season 0 of the game. Like, it's not even season 1. It's like something between a beta and a fully fleshed game at this point. But like, I see the potential. I see it's so fucking fun. Like the feeling when you like just like aim that pass just perfectly and you playing your guy in for a run. Most people still suck, so like they don't finish the goal. But like the pass, I'm all about the pass.
How much more than just a button tap is goal kicking in this? Because I imagine it's got to get ratcheted up in difficulty in this kind of a circumstance.
So think of it like this. The movement and the aiming is entirely third-person shooter mechanics. You have your right stick controls your camera. You have your left stick controls your person. Your shot is always going to be perfectly in the middle of whatever your camera orientation is. It's just how do you have your camera oriented? So it's a lot of like, I'm looking to the right to receive the pass. I see it coming. As it comes, I spin my camera around to aim it, hold right trigger, shoot. But you can also pass in any direction with the square button. And sometimes like that's the move. Like if you can't get your camera right, it's like, oh, let me just quick, try to like tap pass it into the corner before the goalie can read it.
I'm just thinking about people struggling with like Super Mario 64 camera. It's like, I'm just throwing the fire flower to the other dude. Other dude's got that real quick. Come back to me in a minute.
Right, exactly. No, that was I've never been good at shooters, so that was definitely the biggest learning curve for me. But like the camera's starting to feel natural now, and like, oof, I swiftly started climbing the ranks once I figured out like how to move the camera.
Diaz learned how to move the camera.
It's happy and putting and me like generally being aware of where I'm running.